Y'all, welcome. I am so excited to be here. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Neurodiversity Media Network, and we are here with the fabulous Nicole Barham, 5 Minute Bookkeeper, for a new series we're calling 5 Minutes to Money Mastery. And it'll be longer than 5 minutes. But the goal is that we create systems and understandings for you that allow you to spend 5 minutes on your money. Because, especially for neurodivergent folks, I think we get stuck. Money is hard, it feels scary. We don't like dealing with it. And so we want to create the structure that's going to help you feel comfortable with your money. So, Nicole, tell us about yourself.
Hi, Briar. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Nicole Barham, and I created 5 Minute Bookkeeper um, a few years ago because I just saw that there were so many complex systems that were out there for people who wanted to do their finances. And they just wanted to get some simple systems and tools in place. They didn't have time to learn how to use all these different tools, 4 hour tutorials, all of that, right? And I know my neurodivergent. Ah, why can't I say divergent? Oh, okay.
Because it's 10 a.m. Good morning.
Yes, yes, that is 9 for you, so too. Uh,
Hmm.
because I know my neurodivergent folks do not have the time or just the capability of sitting through hours and hours of learning how to use a system that they really just want a simple solution for. So that's why I created 5 Minute Bookkeeper. I don't want to do my finances more than 5 minutes. I imagine most people don't want to do that longer as well. And so, yeah, that's how I started this business, and it's been amazing. Just the feedback from everyone, including I actually have a client who runs a podcast, and I do not remember the name of the podcast now, but her name is Amber Holly, and she talks only to neurodivergent populations, and she's like, "This is amazing for me. It's amazing my community for my community." She's an affiliate of mine, and she talks about 5 Minute Bookkeeper all the time because she knows what that community needs, and so she's sharing it with them.
Because it's simple, easy. That's what we need.
Yes.
We need it to not be hard. So your background is corporate finance, right?
Yeah, so it's a lot of things. I started out in accounting, working with the Jamaican government. That's where I started my career in accounting. So the love of numbers and working with numbers for a long time, straight out of high school. And then to now where I got to the corporate world. I was a compensation analyst with American Express. So all of it is numbers and systems, right? That's how my brain works. I tell people that's how my Virgo brain works. I love systems. I love step by step, right? And I find that a lot of other people love that too, right? So started out in government, went to corporate, did some work there as well, but it's very varied. I did some administration as well. So all of that though, it's just wrapped up in how my brain works, right? Systems, steps, solutions, very solution oriented. So you come to me with a problem, the first thing I'm thinking about is, okay, how are we going to find the solution? So, and corporate definitely helped me to do that as well.
Bless the Virgos. We are just
Yes.
systematizing the whole world for you.
Yes, it's just easier, right? If
That's
we could
correct.
systematize everything, life would be so much easier.
Just put a bunch of Virgo first eldest daughters in charge of everything. The world would be a different
Listen,
place.
Virgo first daughter here. Yes.
Oh my goodness. So today we really wanted to pack or unpack how
Mm,
the money comes in, what it means. And we are not in a recession. We're in whatever this is.
Yes.
And it's hard out there. Everyone's struggling. Even people who are doing well and making more money are having to work harder for it.
Yes.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of baggage around how it's coming in and what's not coming in and how
Yeah.
we keep track of all of that.
Yeah.
How do we make that easier?
Um, that's a perfect question for me, Briar, because that's exactly what I do, right? I feel like I'm not sure if it's because the systems and tools that are out there, or if people are just thinking because it's money, because it's finances, it has to be hard, right? Because I don't know how you grew up, but the way that I grew up, nobody talked about money, right? If they talked about it, it was about how much we don't have, about how much we can't afford. So all of that negativity around money and finances, I'm thinking that a lot of people are thinking it's hard. I don't want to deal with it. I don't have a lot of it anyway. And not really looking for a solution unless they get to a point where they're really like in desperate for it, right? And so I really want to teach people that it can be so simple. And you don't have to wait until you have a lot of money coming in to actually look at it, to track it, to see what's happening with it.
It's actually easier when you have no money coming in to look at it and track it and see what's happening with it because it's easier
Yeah.
math.
Yes, for sure. It's not a lot coming in, it's not a lot going out, maybe. Right. So it's easy to start right there. Right. And I know people think that I'll just wait until loads of money is coming in and then I'll take a look at it. But then it gets overwhelming because now you have to kind of go back and sift through a lot of things to figure this out. Right. So starting where you are and not making whatever the money is telling you mean anything about you and your self worth. That's the other thing too, right? So you're looking at the money, you're like, oh, I have $2.50 in my bank account. Then I start feeling bad about myself. Oh my, and then all of the programming, right? Societal, community programming, programming in your home, right? All of those things rush to the surface because you're like, I'm not good with money, we can't afford it, and all the worthiness issues start coming up. So I think again, a lot of people avoid that because they don't really want to see the picture and they don't want to see the story. But I really believe that our money tells a story about our lives. Just the same way I created 5 Minute Bookkeeper because I know that your money tells the story about your business, right? When you're looking at the finances, this is the story of my business, basically, right? And I know that we think that money is not, some people think that money is not important. I think it's absolutely extremely important because we really have to see what's going on with the money, what story is it telling me, and how can I change it? Like you can't change what you don't explore or know what's really happening, right? So yeah.
And I think we're going to have a lot of time to unpack the class and racial and other intersections here that happen with money and money
Yes.
stories, because that's a big part of the legacy here. How are you going to build generational wealth when your wealth story is based on lack?
Yes. That almost impossible. Almost impossible. Have to do deprogramming, reprogramming, lots of work around money and shedding a whole lot of what we learned and what we grew up with, right? And it's not like, and I know that people are thinking, I didn't grow up with money, and so I can't have a lot of it. But the thing is, that's not the reason why we can't have a lot of money, right? It's the other things that happen within our homes, societies. um, Again, as you mentioned, if you are a Black person, your net worth is already predetermined to be a fraction of somebody, of a white person or a white family, right? So all those things again, you know, come into play when we're talking about money, building generational wealth, building like what's your how are you going to do that? What's the foundation? You don't have any generational wealth being passed on to you. How are you now going to start this? You're the person who's starting this generational wealth journey, right? And if you're in those groups of people that are um, usually not wealthy, usually do not have generational wealth, it's an uphill battle. Not that it's not possible, but it's definitely not as easy as some others might have it. Yeah.
And I think the biggest issue here is avoidance, that
Yes.
we aren't looking at what's coming in at all because we are so afraid of it that it is easier to just pretend that it doesn't exist. And y'all, I'm speaking from
Yeah.
deep personal experience here. For
Yeah.
years, I just pretended like it didn't exist,
Yeah.
and it hurt my finances, my family finances, certainly my business's finances.
Yeah.
It's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the whole point of 5 Minute Bookkeeper is that it's a daily activity, right?
Yes.
We do this consciously, mindfully. What do we need to be able to do to get ourselves to that place?
So, um, sometimes some financial advice that you would receive is work on your mindset, and then you start working on managing your finances or looking or budgeting or whatever it is. I have found, and this might be unconventional, this might work for some people, it might not work for others. I have found that since money is happening now, like you're literally using money to every single day almost, right? Sometimes you're, waiting until you have the mindset to focus on the money is kind of doing it backwards. So I
Mhm.
say, how sometimes people talk about if you want to start a new habit, right? Like I wanted to start moving my body more on a daily basis. You know what I did, Briar? I literally got up and started walking outside. I put my sneakers on and I went downstairs and I walked around the block one time, right? The same thing is what I found with finances, working with clients for the past, well, created 5 Minute Bookkeeper 3 years ago, and then working with clients about 4 or 5 years. I have found that when we start doing something with the finances, with the money, start actually opening, and you can do this on your own, opening a little spreadsheet. And don't be scared of spreadsheets. They're not going to bite you, right? They're really, really helpful. And just open and start looking at the numbers and writing them down. Get a book, get a composition notebook, right? And start doing it's not going to feel great. Let me tell you. When I started walking around the block, my knees hurt, my my ankle hurt, but after you keep doing that, it's like with anything else, it's exercising that muscle, right? No pun intended. But just making sure that you're doing something every single day. And that's why, yes, you can do 5 Minute Bookkeeper monthly, and we even have weekly money dates in our community if you're not able to catch up. But I still believe in the daily because there's something about something psychological about doing something every single day. After a while, you will not want to do it, right? So that's where I want to get people because I know that the money and the finances is what will really make a huge difference in people's lives, in your business, in your personal life, for generations to come, right? You build those habits and then you teach that to the next generation and they teach it. It now becomes this habit of, I'm not going to be avoiding my money anymore. Doesn't matter what the picture looked like. I'm going to confront it even for 5 minutes a day. And it absolutely makes a difference.
So, this is a bit of a tangent, but not really. I want you to tell me how you're talking about money with the next generation. Because if we're reprogramming those habits for ourselves, we're also doing it for our kids. And
Yeah.
that's a different conversation than the one we grow up with. So, talk to me about how that looks and feels.
Okay, so I have a 21-year-old. She's an adult. And the way that I started to talk to her about money, and by the way, the first, 17 or 16 years of her life, she was more than likely absorbed because we didn't really talk about money. You know what I mean? We just, paid for things, and she knew that we had a roof over our head. We didn't talk too much about not affording things. I tried to avoid that because I knew that I grew up with that. But also, it wasn't like, we're going to build generational wealth. This is how you manage your money. Never really focused on that. Now the conversation is, let's talk about not spending all the money that you make in your part-time job. Right? And it has to be practical because, sometimes kids, they don't understand. And I feel like, and I've done this, right? The way that we grew up, we're wanting them to empathize with our upbringing. And they have no point of reference. They have no idea what we're talking about, right? So, starting from their point of reference, where you're like, these are great or positive money habits that will help you in the long term. So, right now, whatever money she earns, she's going to college. She graduates in December this year, but she has a part time job and she also works with me. Every income that she earns, she puts money aside. She has a Roth IRA. Money goes into that, right? It doesn't have to be this, big overhaul, right? We're not saying that, this is I couldn't do this, so I have to make sure that my kids are perfect when it comes to money and finances. That's not what we're saying. I'm saying to her, you have to, get into the habit of putting money aside, allocating money, right? This percentage of my income or money that comes in is going to go to this thing, this pot. This percentage goes to that pot. And I feel like we can start there, especially if we're not comfortable having a whole, conversation. Again, I love the bite-sized, step-by-step, small habits, then yield big positive results. But yeah, do not dump all of your money things onto your kids. And now it's kind of repelling, like, oh my God, I don't want to talk about money anymore. I don't want to talk about saving anymore. I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk about investing anymore. Just like little conversations. And I'm telling you, they make a huge, huge difference.
So, our approach has been we do not we've not focused on saving for her, which I recognize we've been doing it on the back end.
Mm,
So she's my oldest is 22, lives at home, has a full-time job. We make her pay bills
yeah,
very deliberately, intentionally. She gives us money for rent and utilities and
yeah,
those things, and the money goes away. Now we are saving that for her on the back end.
right.
So she's getting that cushion, but I want her to experience, because she is autistic, that the money goes away and we pay for the things that build a life.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely. And this the same thing with my daughter. She is in college and we are not paying for everything, right? We could afford to, but we wanted to teach her that you want to earn your own money, figure out a way to do that. And she was only working, I think, 5 hours or 10 hours a week or something like that, right? Just that, interacting with other people, working in a work environment, right? Having those skills because we can't protect you and have you in this cocoon forever, right? You're gonna have to go out there. You're gonna have to interact with other people, and so learning how to work with others, learning how to earn your own money, learning how to pay bills. So we pay her rent while she's at college, but she pays for everything else. We're like, you have to do your own food if you want to, entertainment, all of that. Where you take care of that, we'll take care of the big bill, right? Again, giving them some form of responsibility so that they do not expect that, all, parents are going to be taking care of them forever. And now, if they get to the point where they have to do it themselves, they have no clue what to do, right? So, yeah, for sure, helping our kids, and however we want to do that, right? There's no right or wrong way, as long as you're walking in a positive direction, right? And just teaching them money skills that will last for a long time, right? Then, they don't have to, if you say, I don't really talk a lot about savings with her, but I do say you want to invest because I know that over a certain number of years, her Roth IRA, based on historical data, she's going to have quite a bit of money in that account, right? So just things like that. We just focus on a few different things, but not like, you know, giving them the whole thing all at once and overwhelming them.
Well, because I think that's the part that is so, it's not always the case, but I feel as though a lot of, especially neurodivergent folks, have a lot of early trauma and familial
Yes.
difficulties with and around money. So we are forced into the deep end at a very young age and then have to learn how to navigate all of this crap all on our own.
Yes.
And because of that systemic issue, it makes money very difficult for us to process and to have a conversation about within marriages or
Mhm.
relationships, much less with our children.
Yes.
So, how do we have those conversations about money with ourselves?
Yeah. So, full disclosure, I am not an expert when it comes to neurodiversity and how the brain works, right? When it comes to talking about certain topics, and money is absolutely one of them. But I also know that sometimes it's, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's making these little steps, right? It's deciding that, okay, I'm not going to, because I know sometimes we can feel like just even thinking about doing that can be overwhelming, right? And so, are there ways that you are able to communicate that feels comfortable to you? It might feel really comfortable not communicating about it, right? But are you somebody who prefers to write things down, send a short email, or do you prefer to talk to your, when you're communicating, what's your best mode of communication? I have an autistic son. You mentioned your autistic daughter. And so his way of communicating is not communicating at all, right? Unless it's like a really something that's really happening with him and he really needs it now and it's like hurting him or something and he really needs to get your attention, but he would prefer not to communicate, right? And so I know how that is when it comes to, what, it's easier not to communicate than, try to do this thing that I fitting myself into this box, or fitting a square peg into a round hole kind of thing, right? And of course, the round hole is the general population's way of doing things. And then now here you come and you're like, I can't do that. Like that's not how my brain works. That's not how I operate. And so how do you communicate best? Right? However you communicate, that's how you want to. Do you want to write on a piece of paper and leave it on the counter for your kids? Do you want to send an email? Do you want to have, quick, short conversations? Do you need? There's a little card deck that I discovered recently called Talking Points. I don't know if you heard about that prior, but it's like little cards. It's like conversation starters, right? Do you need something to like start the conversation so you can keep it going? And so, do you need prompts? Do you need to write stuff down that will help you to start the conversation? So the way that you communicate is the way that you communicate, and I'm not saying change the way you communicate, just fit the conversation into the way that you communicate. And I'm almost sure that your kids, because they're already used to you communicating the way you do, right? So I'm sure that your kids will be receptive and they will understand. It's just getting the message to them. You don't have to. There's no perfect way to do it, as long as they get the message.
And I think that that is part of how we help ourselves in this process too. Like, talking about it is what got us here, or not
Yes.
talking about it is what
Right.
got us here. So,
Yeah.
being able to build in those frameworks around having clear, honest communication
Yeah.
about our money is what helps it start to feel different.
For sure.
We're unshaming it.
Yeah.
So, how are we processing things then? I know you have a system within 5 Minute Bookkeeper that walks you through like the inputs,
Right.
but in general, what does it mean for people to actually start being accountable on paper to their money?
Yeah. Okay. So, um, for some people, it's just a matter of doing it, right? The night I love the Nike commercial or the tagline, "Just do it," right? Um, and I so believe in that for yourself first, right? You have to start doing, creating the habit for it, because of course you're not able to communicate anything to anyone else unless you've done the work yourself, unless you're at a point where you feel like, I mean, you could, but it's not as authentic as, doing the work, doing this for yourself, seeing the results, and saying, you know what, this is what I've been doing, this is how it's been working, right? I have systems in 5 Minute Bookkeeper that says, okay, this is the video that you watch first, this is the thing that you do first. And I feel like, that's just how I would start the conversation, just step by step. That really works for a lot of people, whether they're neurodivergent or not. Just getting to the point where, you're like, okay, let's take this first step, and let's take the second step. I'm just thinking about my son. So he does speech therapy, right? And he has like different, his speech therapist. She uses like a reading program with him, and the first thing that they do is they start off with one word, right? They start off with the letters, then they build on, and then they start doing CVC words or three-letter words. And then now he's gotten to the point where he's now reading the words in a story, right? So maybe you need to start out with one word, right? With that, that foundation, building on that foundation step by step. Okay, this is the first step. Really simple, really easy. And this can be applied. I know people might be hearing me and they're thinking, easy for you to say, Nicole, but I promise you, everything can be broken down. And again, I'm going to go back to some therapies that my son does. Chunking, right? Like you start with a little thing first, they master that little thing, and then you build on that, right? That's how I built my business as well, right? That's how I really started to focus on my own finances. First of all, in the beginning, I felt like I wanted to throw up, right? Oh my gosh, I have to start looking at my finances. I have to start getting, I started facing reality, right? Did not want to do it. But after doing that for like a month or two, it was just like easy, like clockwork. Getting in there 5 minutes a day, doing it, not feeling bad about myself. And then I saw my position was improving, right? The numbers were improving, they were looking better. And so again, I'm not saying that, yeah, I'm saying that you can start wherever you are, really, really small, right? And that's how you communicate as well. Just really short, communication, the way you communicate, just start really small and then build on that. That was a long way of explaining. Start with the basics and then build on it.
And to be clear, y'all, If you need a foundation, we are obviously recommending that you go and purchase 5 Minute Bookkeeper, which you can
Thank
grab
you.
my affiliate link at briarharvey.com/5, the number 5, MBK, and I'll drop the link in the show notes. But what we want you to understand is that these are foundational habits. It's not just about the tool, it's about the practices. And habits are hard when you are neurodivergent. So we like to think about things as rituals instead. And part of that, I think, with money is that when you ritualize it, you change your relationship to it. Now, this is probably a little wooey, but I think money likes to be wooed. And I think money likes to be admired and petted and
Yes.
like talk nice to your money, baby.
Yes.
How do we do those things in a way that allows us to, especially when the balance is bad,
Hmm.
how do we help ourselves continue to have a positive relationship with the money?
Great question. And I feel like this is where a lot of people get stuck, right? This is where people are like, easy for you to say, Nicole, you have built a multiple six-figure business. You know, all of the things that it would look like somebody who's telling you to do this have already quote unquote arrived, right? But I was exactly there, Briar. I remember when I used to do my numbers and used to see that we were not going to be able to make the rent and literally had to borrow money from my mom or my sister to cover. So definitely in the red, right? So the point I'm making is it doesn't have to look pretty for you to look at it, right? If you know that you're in the red and you're still looking at it, maybe you'll have an idea of how do I get out of this? How do I have a temporary solution? Maybe you have to borrow from someone instead of having your check bounce and your bank charging you money. Maybe you're able to borrow from someone else, right? They're both not quote unquote great, but it's better to borrow, right, than having your checks bounce all over the place. By the time your paycheck gets to the bank, then they take out all these fees, right? It's not, I wouldn't say positive or negative situation, but it's what's the better situation. You might have a zero interest loan from a family member. You don't have to pay all these fees, right? So that's how I looked at it because I was really able to cover my bills. Yes, I owed somebody else, but I didn't have all this checks weren't bouncing, my vendor, not vendors, too business minded. My payees weren't like calling me on the phone, telling me that I bounced checks. Now I have to pay them a fee as well. You see what I mean? So it's not pretty, but the solution, you have like a better solution to getting the picture to look a little bit better, right? And so, and we did that for months, like sometimes months in a row. My sister would tell you right now, sometimes when she looks in her checkbook, like a while back, every check that she wrote was in my name, right? And so I'm like, the picture was not pretty, right? But I definitely was able to find solutions that worked at the time. And I didn't love the solutions, but they were better solutions than other things that would have happened if I was otherwise not paying attention.
And I think so much of this has, especially for people who are marginalized, real implications. When the money is bad, it's almost always desperate.
Yes,
And the solutions are bad. And rather than really taking time to assess what is humbling, people will fall into payday loans or right, there are so many truly horrific financial habits that
yes,
happen because we're unwilling to have the conversation with our money and about our money.
for sure.
So, we obviously, as a network, have many shows that will talk to you about building a business and getting into those places where the money is better.
Hmm.
But I think that there's something here about the lack of awareness truly impacting what we're spending. And we're going
Yeah,
to talk about that one next week, but also knowing how to build what we have coming in.
right,
Can you talk a little bit about how that works? That knowing the numbers means we can build better.
right, for sure. So, knowing the numbers tells a story of your business or your life, however you're doing it, but it also helps you to strategize, right? So, let's talk about, say you're running a business and you're looking at your numbers, you're tracking your numbers, you see what's happening with your money, and you'd like to scale, right? Scaling might include hiring more people, right? It might include running ads. It might include employing a marketing team or an agency, right? How will you afford that? Are you making enough money to be able to cover all these, different expenses? Because when you're scaling, 9 times out of 10, you have to actually put the systems and people in place before you actually start seeing the results, the more money, the more clients, whatever, right? So, being able to take a look at your finances, right? Having that picture of where you are and then deciding where you want to go and how you're going to get there. Your numbers are absolutely telling. Like if you do this in a vacuum, I can tell you right now, you'll be firing people or just not being able to pay the people that you're hiring. You'll be ending with the marketing people. Like you're, if you're not taking a really, unless you have like a ton of money coming in, all this extra cash, which is not a lot of businesses, right? A lot of businesses have to really, be very have to be good stewards of their money. They have to be looking at those numbers and saying, can I afford to do this? I want to scale. I want to grow. Can I afford these different resources that I need to bring in, right? And the numbers is what will definitely tell you that. So, getting your business to the next level requires that you are on top of the finances and knowing exactly what's happening with your business finances.
And again, this is a ritual, a routine, a thing that we build over time. How do we help the business by having this awareness? So we see what's coming in and we have like actual clarity around what we can spend.
Right.
But how does the business as an entity benefit from an awareness of its numbers?
Oh my goodness, it's longevity, right? It's I spoke about this recently where I I filed bankruptcy 7 years ago. And I believe that if I was paying more attention to my business finances, I probably would not have filed bankruptcy, or I would have stopped, pivoted or ended that business or made a different decision if I was able to look at my numbers. So it's everything when you think about, do I want to stay in business, right? The other thing too is that the when you're paying attention to, let me tell you, there's a saying that where focus goes, energy flows, right? And when you focus on the finances and you focus on the money, the energy, like you're like, I want to build this super successful business. I want to stay in business for a long time. I want this to be my legacy. I want to create generational wealth. I want to pass it on to my children, right? When you have that thinking, and that's how your finances will really help you to get to those goals, right? Because as you go along and you have that goal in mind, that's your end goal, now you're taking care of what's happening right now. You're being really intentional about what's happening right now, right? And so there's a statistic that says that 85% of businesses fail because of poor financial management, right? You don't want to be a statistic, right? You want to be you're here for the long haul. And so that is why, the awareness around what's really happening with your finances, and now be able to make those decisions, maybe daily decisions, maybe weekly decisions, right? And there is no way that you can do that, build this, wildly successful business, unless you really pay attention and aware of your finances.
And I think that we overlook how important this is in the day to day because we're
Right.
in it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do we get that 10,000-foot view of our finances?
Well, using simple systems, and again, 5 minute bookkeeper, right? One of the things that I've heard from a lot of, because we have over 300 entrepreneurs in our community, we get a ton of feedback about what they've used before, what doesn't work, right? And how this simple tool has helped them. So I come back to something simple, right? 99% of entrepreneurs are not finance people, right? They have this passion for something that they love to do. They want to, change the world with the skill, but it's not the finances, right? And so you want to be able to, you know, have this 10,000-foot view, as you say, really quickly. You want to spend as little time as possible to get to the end result, which is, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but I see that people are in businesses and they pack their programs. They're like, I want to sell my program for $10,000. Let me put as much information, as many videos, have as many sessions as possible. And I'm like, no, I want you to tell me how to make $10,000. And I would love for you to tell me how to do that tomorrow. I don't want you to drag it out in a 10-month program that's going to be, and of course, there are things that really take time, Briar. But what I'm saying is, how can you get to the results? How can you get that 10,000-foot view of your business finances quickly, right? And that's ditching the complex systems that you have to be like, oh my gosh, you have to be an accounting professional to use some of these systems, right? Get something really simple where my clients are like, I did a whole year of my bookkeeping in less than an hour, right? Now, do not leave it the whole year of your bookkeeping. This is an example, right? But what I'm saying is, when you're able to have something quick, easy, and you're like, give me 15 minutes, let me just make this update and see what's happening. That the result is when the result is that quick, you just make sure that you use really simple, really fast systems that give you quick results so that you can see what's happening and you don't have to be like tearing your hair out and fighting with these other systems that just, sometimes you just get overwhelmed and you give up. So simple systems that are easy to use is one of the best solutions for that.
So, I guarantee you, at some point in time,
Hmm.
someone will listen to this who has been ignoring their finances for years.
Yes.
Not not days, not weeks, not months, years.
Yeah.
And they are potentially looking at audits and
Yes.
IRS penalties, and they feel so overwhelmed
Yeah.
that they have no idea what to do next. What do they do next?
You work with a professional. I'm like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to be like, oh, just start with little chunks. We have passed the point of chunks, right? We are at the point where you need to hire somebody to come in, and thankfully we do that here at 5 Minute Bookkeeper as well. Because again, Briar, over the years, what we do really well, we listen to our clients and we implement changes, especially when more than a few of them are like, can we get this service? Right? I started out actually doing the bookkeeping for my clients. So that's something that we've continued to do, right? That's something we've continued to offer as one of our services, our done for you services, where we will take all those years, right? We take all those years of transactions from you and we work on it and then bring you all up to date and then pass it back to you. It's clients have thanked us profusely for doing that work for them because they were like looking at this mountain of work and wondering how am I going to do this. So just having someone else, there's sometimes you just have to pay someone else to do it, right? And so we do that as well and get you to the point where you're like, okay, clean slate. I'm starting from now. I'll take it over. Sometimes people take the finances in house. We also have ongoing monthly retainers if you want someone else to do it. So we have a few clients that do that as well. But just wanting my goal, Briar, is to have this solution where I'm not going to turn you away unless it's something that I really can is not within our the services that we offer. Like we don't do taxes, right? A lot of people come to us for taxes. We're like, we don't do that, but we have an amazing network of tax professionals that we can refer you to, right? But if we do that, if we do what you need, if we you need your bookkeeping for yours to be updated, we definitely help you in that area. So again, we make it easy for you because we want to make this as easy as possible, and we want to get you to the results fast. So these things we have done years of bookkeeping over like a week, a couple weeks, um, and clients are really really happy about that because it would have probably taken them months.
And I think that's, if I can teach you anything here, it is that sometimes we got to ask for help. And
Yes,
if the money is hard, then you need to. The money is hard because we lack skill, because money is a skill.
yes,
So we have to be able to hand that to somebody else to support us in making things work.
yes.
How do we let go of our attachment to this?
Yeah. So how do we let go of the attachment to money or
To having to manage the money because clearly we are personally flawed in some way if we
mm,
cannot, right? That
right.
it's the shame piece. And I think it's so intrinsically connected that I am bad at money and therefore I deserve to suffer
Yes.
with this poorly managed system.
Yes. Um, I totally get it. I've been there. Some of my clients have been there. You have to start seeing yourself differently. And this is where I recommend other programs where you work on healing any trauma you may have around money, changing the way that you look at money. In the coaching industry, there is a phrase that they say, "What are you making this mean?" Right? What is that? Because everybody has a different story, right? Some of us maybe may have similar stories, but everybody has a similar story, a different outlook, right? And so the way that you're looking at a situation is not the way that someone else looks at it, right? We might be looking at uh, the same disastrous situation. You're like, I don't have any money, I'm in the red, all kinds of thoughts are coming up. I'm not good with money, this is why I never have money. And so somebody else might be looking at this and be like, so this is what we're working with, what's the solution? Right, while someone else might be thinking this is a disaster, there's no solution. I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it. And so a lot of the changes that I've made personally and some of my clients have made is, and I'm not a professional when it comes to money mindset or healing, any kind of healing around money trauma. So, but I'm just telling you from my personal experience, right? So, have looked at there and have looked at our money and say, how can I find a solution? Again, the Virgo in me is like, okay, what's this? This is the problem. What's the solution? And using my logical mind to find a solution to, and it usually comes, right? Again, we might be talking to a population of people who are like, listen, that's so easy for you to do, right? And, I can't do that. But I absolutely would recommend that apart from starting the really, small habits and or rituals that you mentioned, Briar, is that you start either listening to podcasts, reading books, right? And maybe seeing a professional, right? Or there a lot of professionals have podcasts, and we can probably get a list of them, Briar, where you can literally start shifting your mind. So you don't have to find money now to go pay somebody, but you can
Right.
use these books and podcasts to start shifting the way that you think about money or think about your situation, right?
And we'll definitely include that whole compilation in the masterclass because I think there's a lot out there that will start you if you have truly nothing to work with, all
Right.
the way up to this is what you should be doing with your money so that you can make more money.
Yes.
And it's always about understanding what the right investment is for the right stage of money growth. And I
Yes.
think that's really a place where people get stuck. So, when should people not spend money on financial growth? What does
Um,
that actually look like?
when you say financial growth, do you mean like
Or maybe not financial growth, but when should people not spend money on investing in a program or the next big thing that's going to change the money for them, right?
yeah.
Change the money for them.
Yeah, when you're thinking about investing in a program that's going to change your money, but you're going to be it's going to be difficult for you or a challenge for you to afford this program, right? Because now you're adding on, and I know a lot of people, I've done this before, Briar, and it's worked for me. It doesn't work for everyone, where people find the money or figure out a way. I'm not a find the money, figure out a way kind of person. I'm like, if this is going to cause you to, delve deeper into this, this issue that you're having, right? Unless it's a result that you're going to be getting immediately, I would not recommend that you go into debt for doing this. As I mentioned earlier, there's so many free resources that you can start using, right? So I wouldn't start spending money and then start worrying about whether or not you can afford this. How are you going to replace this money? Am I going to use my mortgage money to pay for you know what I mean? So you have to make sure that this is something that feels good to you. This is a great investment. I can afford it, or whatever I need to do to afford it, it feels good to me. If you're feeling like you want to throw up every time you think about paying for this thing, then you might want to hold off and try some free resources. The internet is an amazing place where there's so much free info that you can start there.
And I feel like that's a great place to leave it.
Yeah.
Truly, conceptually, if you're not feeling good about your money,
Yeah.
it's always going to feel harder. What are good ways to build up the feels, the good
Mhm.
feelings, especially when it's hard? How do we do that?
So we can do things that we love, right? We all have things that we love. And I know that it's counterintuitive to do more of the things that is causing you this anxiety, or how you're feeling badly, right? So for just a short time, Stop. Like right now, if I'm having anxiety about anything, I could say, let me take a break. Breaks are amazing. Take a break and do something that you actually enjoy doing, right? If it's watching a show, if it's, doing, a craft, playing a game with your kid, like whatever it is, sometimes we just have to stop what we're doing and just focus on something that we love. A lot of us think that, oh, if I'm so what do you call that word? I'm irresponsible, right? If I, have this thing that I should be doing and it's hard and it's challenging and I'm feeling so horrible about it, but I have to stick in here and continue to do it because it's the right thing to do. And I say, no. I'm like, literally, you can leave whatever it is for just a little bit, an hour, do something else that makes you feel better, and then maybe come back to it. And you know what? Sometimes you don't feel as bad as you did before. And maybe while you're away doing that thing that you love, you found a solution, or you find like a step in the right direction, right? I do this a lot where I literally take breaks all the time. Okay, today I'm not doing any work. Like, it gets overwhelming. You're an entrepreneur, you have so many things going on. You're literally making all the decisions in your business, right? So I'm like, okay, today I'm not making any business decisions. I'm not opening my computer. I'm not going on social media. I'm not posting anything. I'm taking a break. You're allowed to take breaks and really do what you love and come back to it later. This is your permission.
And we are all about that here. We want you to love what you're doing. And I realize that we don't always get to do what we love and get paid for it, but we can love what we do. And
Yeah.
that's the distinction here. So when it stops feeling like love, it's
Yes.
about taking a break
Yeah.
and stepping back. And ultimately, I think that is what changes things when it comes to our relationship with our money.
Yes, for sure. I Yeah, you said it best, Briar. I think that sometimes we feel like we have to just, be in there and feel the pain. And I'm like, no, you just can just literally go feel joy and come back to it later.
And I like that we get the choice. That's what it's all about. So, next time we're talking about the money going out, which is also a fun topic, right? And I encourage folks to keep an open mind about what that conversation is actually going to look like. Because this is what we're doing. We're bringing money and joy together at the same time. This has been absolutely delightful, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you for this conversation. And guys, I hope that we can lean into it a little bit, right? Especially right now, money feels very hard. And the more we breathe into the hard, the more we make it hard. So it's about stepping back and really finding what feels lighter and easier. All right. So if you would like to take a look at 5 Minute Bookkeeper, I will throw the link into the comments and in the show notes. If you have not yet subscribed to the Neurodiversity Media Network, please take a look at us. That's neurodiversitymedianetwork.com. This particular masterclass is going to contain all of the resources that we talked about in terms of the free stuff and what you should look at longer term in terms of investment. And I think that it's going to be a really great series, y'all. I am so
Yay.
excited about this. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you all for being here. Let us know if you're watching the replay, and we will talk to you again soon. Have an